All right. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whenever you're listening to this. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Breakthrough Podcast. And I know it's been a while since I've done the podcast. To be honest, it kind of got deprioritized now because there are a lot of things. We're prioritizing a lot of other things. But if I were to put it in a word, I was overwhelmed in the past couple of months with all of the things that we wanted to create and put out there, and all the things that needed to happen. That I needed to choose. No, and unfortunately, not even unfortunately, but I intentionally chose to not do any podcasts first. But during that time, it kept on. I kept on going back to it. Na parang kailan na yung next, kailan na yung next. And I guess that's something that I can share about. Now, that idea of overwhelm, because I think overwhelm is it happens to a lot of people. It happens to a lot of us. And what do we mean by overwhelm ba? By usually overwhelmed with the number of things to do, number of responsibilities, and there's just little time, or at least there's a belief that there's little time, um, and and everything. And a lot of times you say that I feel overwhelmed, dami kailangan gawin, ang daming, you know, maybe for some, ang daming kailangan bayaran, ang daming stuff, and there's only one me. And because in this episode, what I want to share is some advice, some tips on how to manage overwhelm. And for me, if the way we talk about overwhelm, it's generally a feeling. Well, we feel overwhelmed. We feel overwhelmed when there's so much information, there's so much content. Pagsasali tayo ng course, tapos ang daming information, don't know where to start. Usually overwhelmed, parang you can feel it in a sentence na so much blank, so little blank. Diba? Parang so many things to do, so much things to do, so little time. So many things to think about, so little people. There's only me. Ganyan. And usually that's a good summary of how we can verbalize the feeling of overwhelm. So many of something, so little of something. And overall, it's a feeling. Overwhelm is a feeling. That's why we say, I feel overwhelmed. And if you listen back to a number of episodes that we did, we always talk about, not always, but a lot of times we talk about where our feelings come from. And it's usually coming from our thoughts. So it's always coming from our thoughts. If you got some episodes like the one with the law of attraction, we talk about how thoughts dictate your feelings dictate your vibration, and vibration dictates your frequency. And depending on what frequency you tune into, that is what you attract or repel in your life. So your thought affects your feelings. Meaning, if you're feeling overwhelmed, it's likely because there's a thought that creates that feeling. Now, my question is, it's different for everyone, but what thought are you holding? Or what thoughts are you choosing to believe that's causing overwhelm? Think about that for a bit. We don't feel overwhelmed because there's a lot of things to do, or a lot of things to consume, or everything. We feel overwhelmed because when we see all of the things that needs to be done, needs to be consumed, needs to be paid, we suddenly have a thought, or we suddenly have thoughts. And those thoughts are what causes overwhelm. So think about it. Some examples would be if you join a program or a course, lalo na yung mga may accountability, yung everyday checking in on you, everyday may activity, and then kung hindi ka makahabol, you feel overwhelmed. Now, what's the thought? The thought is, usually the thought can be behind ako. Like a program I'm part of now, It has a 30-day execution cycle wherein from day 1 up to day 30 may specific activity that you are invited to do. Of course, it's a choice that you're invited to do. And then you'd see people doing them, and you'd see people getting wins from what they do. And then there would be people who would, they're doing a lot of other things, they're doing work pa din and everything, so they don't have the time that other people have to be able to put into the work that the challenge entails. But after day 5, day 6, hindi pa sila nakakapagsimula, and then they see people having all these wins. It's a freelancing um, challenge. So parang ways to get clients. So you'd see people sharing all the wins that they did because they took action. And then people would feel bad na parang, I haven't even started. I feel overwhelmed. Ang dami kong kailangan habulin. A lot of people are getting results. I'm getting behind. Nahuhuli ako. And when you start to think of that, no, nahuhuli ako, wala akong results, it's not working. That's when you start to feel overwhelmed. Or on a given day, pag marami kang kailangan gawin, or a lot of people are messaging you, needing your response, you feel overwhelmed because maybe the thought is, mag-isa lang ako. And they even invite you to look at your thoughts kasi you may have thoughts that are sponsored by other thoughts. But that idea na mag-isa lang ako sa business can be sponsored by, I can't afford to hire an assistant. I can't afford to hire a team. I don't know how to manage a team. So I'll do it all myself. And that thought of doing it all yourself, that is what's causing your overwhelm. Or money. Dami kang kailangan bayaran. Is it that that's causing the overwhelm, or is it the thought that you don't know where money will come from next? Kasi if marami kang kailangan bayaran, but you have the supply to be able to pay for that, or you know exactly saan manggagaling yung pera to be able to pay for all the things you need to buy, you likely will not be in overwhelm. So it's not the number of things that are in front of you that's causing the overwhelm, but your thought or the interpretation you put into having all those things. Pag marami kang utang or marami akong utang, sometimes the thought is, hindi ako magaling sa pera. And that is what causes the stress and the overwhelm for me. So I'd invite you, if you haven't yet, to pause this podcast and really think, if you're feeling overwhelmed, what specific thoughts are you feeling? Or if you're having difficulties identifying that, start first with, what causes the overwhelm? What's the thing that you feel there's a lot of? And what's the thing that you feel that there's little of? So many things to do, so little time, maybe it's that. And then from there, think about what thoughts are coming up for you. What thoughts are coming up for you when you think that there's so many things to do, or that there's so little time? Maybe it's baka yun na mismo yung thought, that there is little time, and that's what's stressing you out. Because these thoughts are beliefs. What are beliefs but thoughts we continue to think? That thought na dapat ikaw gagawa lahat. Ikaw lang yung magaling. I've definitely had that thought. Running a Facebook ads agency, being an expert. It took a long time for me to be able to delegate managing client campaigns. So I would hire a team on retainer, but I would still do a bulk of the work kasi in my head, initially I thought hindi lang talaga magaling mag-delegate, but when I really looked into it, it was all coming from ego and thinking that ako lang yung magaling. Diba? I mean, that was for me. I'm not saying that it's for everyone naman. But that was a thought that was causing my feeling of overwhelm. So hopefully this is starting to make sense, or hopefully this is making sense that your feeling of overwhelm is not necessarily caused by the number of things that you have in front of you, but it's caused by the thoughts you have around what's in front of you. Which means that you can have the same amount of things in front of you, but you have the power to change your thought. And when you change your thought to a thought that you can embrace and believe, then that might start to manage or even get rid of the overwhelm. Now, it's very important that you believe the thoughts that you shift to. Kasi if you don't believe it, then it won't work or it won't make sense. Na parang you're just trying to talk your way out of the overwhelm. It won't. It's not that way. That's not how it works. It's not how affirmations work. That's why ako, even if I belong to a coaching company before, wherein the goal was always to come up with an affirmation or a declaration that tawag dito, that represents your grandest vision. So for example, you can say things like, I am limitless. And for me, that worked. Having that vision of me being this awesome person. But it won't work for everyone. Kasi even if you say things like, I am limitless, I am great, I am awesome, I'm amazing, sometimes for people, there would be so much resistance to that parang lip service lang yung, I am awesome, I am great. But it hindi talaga siya tumatatak, and it's not doing its purpose of really helping you move forward. So if yung mga grand thoughts like that don't work for you the same way it works for me, just think of thoughts that you can start to believe. I'll give you an example. Um, let's say, ano may example ko kanina? There's not enough time. If you're the type of person who has resistance to believing that there is an abundance of time, there is an abundance of time and everything, then maybe a thought that can support you would be something like, I can take things, I can finish things by doing them one step at a time. If the overwhelm is coming from you not knowing a lot of things, no. If you don't resonate with saying things like, I can do this, I am capable, maybe thoughts like, everything is learnable, everything is figure outable, can help you reduce the overwhelm. Diba? So yun. To manage the overwhelm, because thoughts are simply thoughts, and it only has power when we give it power, when we choose to believe the thoughts. But we have the power to change our thoughts, to change our thoughts that will change our feelings. So if you're feeling overwhelmed with work, maybe you can think thoughts like, I am supported, if you have access to that support. Like for me, I think I've introduced myself as a Facebook ad strategist and coach naman. I do Facebook ads and I teach people Facebook ads, and I have coaches who are just starting out, not really confident with their skills, and parang a lot of them try to have that affirmation na expert ako, magaling ako, but again, it doesn't resonate kasi they don't believe it, and I'm not one to push na hindi, believe mo yan, diba? Na kaya mo yan, everything, kung may resistance. So yung sinasabi ko, then have a different thought. What thought can you believe? And for a lot of them, the thought that we come up with to help them be more confident is not that they are an expert, but the thought that they are supported. I am supported by Julian as their coach. And that, I've seen that give people confidence. I've seen that allow people to put themselves out there more, because they know that when something comes up that they don't have the answer to, that they can ask me. And with that, the anxiety, the overwhelm, I won't say na mawawala siya, but at least it will be less. Or yesterday, we were coaching someone who was feeling overwhelmed kasi ang dami niyang gustong sabihin, ang dami niyang gustong gawin, because she really wanted her prospect to like her, because she was a fan of this business and she wants to be able to provide value. And one of the biggest thoughts that was causing the overwhelm was, what if I fail? What if I fail? Sabi ko, legitimate naman yung concern mo. No one likes failing for the most part. Diba? Legitimate naman yung concern. What if you fail? But the truth is, we don't know. We're talking about the future that doesn't exist. So we don't know. Yes, possible that it fails, but at the same time, it's also possible that it doesn't fail. Meaning, you're letting the thought consume you, the thought of an unwanted future that doesn't exist, letting it consume you. You're letting it affect your present reality, and in your present reality, you're able to make choices. And when it's affecting the choices that you make, diba, nanggigigil ka, you don't know, you're worried, you're anxious. When it's affecting that, that affects the reality that you want to create in the future. So we let a future that doesn't exist actually dictate what's going to happen in the future. So I told her, because you're letting a thought like that, what if I fail, consume you, then it's only fair for you to consider also thinking about the thought that, what if it works? What if they like you? What if you do a good job? Again, we don't know if that's true or if it's going to happen, because it's in the future, which doesn't exist. But notice, I asked her, notice how you're feeling coming from thoughts that, what if it works? What if they like you? So sabi niya, the anxiety is still there, but it's much less. And I feel more excitement. I feel more empowered. I feel, um, I feel na kaya ka to. And more than feeling, no, we brought the conversation to actions. From kanina, she was feeling, from earlier, she was feeling paralyzed, not sure what to do, and daming in front of her, not really sure what to take. After that short conversation, ang dami niyang nilista na, I'm going to do more research, I'm going to talk to people, get their insights and everything. She suddenly had an action plan. And all she changed was her thought. Nothing changed in the outside world. Nothing changed while we were talking. Only what thought she gave her attention to. When she gave her attention to the thought, which doesn't exist, the thought that, what if I succeed? What if they like me? Then she started to feel more empowered, and then she started to have inspired action. And that might help you if you are feeling overwhelmed. Right? So hopefully that helps. Hopefully that serves. That serves you. But just a quick summary. If you're feeling overwhelmed, that feeling is being caused by a thought. And you have the power to change your thought so that you can slowly release that feeling of overwhelm and put you in a much powerful position to be able to manage what it is that's overwhelming you. Right? So thank you for listening. I hope this was helpful. I'd love to hear from you if this helped you out in any way. And so, I look forward to doing much more podcasts, and for you guys to hear it out. Right? Thanks everyone. Have a great day. Bye bye.